You know that little dark stain on the ceiling or that one floorboard in the corner that looks a bit puffy? Well, those aren't just cosmetic issues, they're basically distress signals. See, when you spot water damage, you're only ever seeing the tip of the iceberg. Today we're going to go deep. I mean right inside your walls and under your floors to really understand the complex science of what's happening. We'll look at how professionals fight this crazy battle against time, temperature, and biology to make your home truly dry again.
So let me ask you, what do you think is the most dangerous part of water damage? If your first thought was the puddle you can see on the floor, hey, you're not alone. But that's not the real enemy. The biggest threat, the real danger, is the moisture you can't see. It's the water that gets trapped deep inside your home's structure, silently kicking off a countdown to catastrophe.
And you know, that hidden moisture doesn't stay quiet for long. It starts sending out these little warning signs. And honestly, learning to spot them is the first step in stopping a small leak from turning into an absolute nightmare.
Okay, so these things might just seem like minor household annoyances, right? But they are literally your home's way of screaming for help. That musty smell? That's not just stale air. It's often the byproduct of hidden moisture and, frankly, the first whisper of mold. And swollen baseboards, peeling paint, or a wood floor that's starting to warp, these are all clues that water is secretly at work soaking everything from the inside out.
Now, before any real cleanup can even start, the pros have to identify the enemy. And believe it or not all water is created equal. The source of the water actually determines its contamination level, and that single fact dictates the entire approach to safety and restoration.
Professionals use this simple classification system to figure out the risk. Category 1 is clean water, like from a burst pipe that carries your drinking water. But Category 2, that's what they call gray water. Think of a dishwasher overflowing with soap and food gunk. And then there's Category 3. That's the really nasty stuff, black water. It's grossly contaminated water from sewage backups or river floods, and it's carrying all sorts of dangerous bacteria into your home.
But here's the kicker, and this is a big one. Even that clean Category 1 water doesn't stay clean for long. As it sits there, soaking into drywall and insulation, it starts mixing with all the everyday bacteria and contaminants in your home. In as little as 48 hours, it can degrade into a dangerous Category 2 or 3 situation. Time is literally turning clean water into a toxic problem.
And that brings us to the single most critical element in any water damage situation, the clock. The whole restoration process is a flat-out race against a biological timeline, where every single hour that passes dramatically changes the outcome.
48 hours. Remember that number. Burn it into your brain. That's the critical window before the risk of mold starting to grow just skyrockets. After this point, what was just a water problem is now on the verge of becoming a serious, long-term health hazard.
Just look at this timeline. It shows you just how fast things escalate. In mere minutes, water's already spreading through porous stuff like drywall. Within a day, that drywall starts to swell and get mushy, and your wood floors can start to warp. But check out that 48 to 72-hour mark. That's when mold finds a new home, and the actual structural integrity of your house can be compromised. The damage just grows exponentially.
So with the clock ticking and the damage getting worse by the minute, how do professionals possibly turn the tide? Well, it's not about mops and buckets, I can tell you that. It's a methodical, science-based playbook designed to stop the damage in its tracks and actually reverse the process. The whole thing breaks down into 3 main phases. First up is emergency extraction, getting all that standing water out as fast as humanly possible. The second, and arguably the most important step, is structural drawing. This is all about targeting that hidden destructive moisture. And finally, once the structure is proven to be dry, the real restoration and repairs can start.
Which, of course, leads to the million-dollar question. How on earth do you dry the inside of a wall, right? You can't just point a fan at it and hope for the best. This is where professional science and technology completely blow any DIY attempt out of the water.
Pros use a whole arsenal of technology to literally see the invisible. Thermal imaging cameras can show the cold spots where moisture is hiding behind the walls. Calibrated moisture meters give them exact readings of water content in wood and drywall, so there's no guesswork, just hard data. And those giant dehumidifiers and air movers, they're not just fans, they're engineered to take complete control of the environment. This all ties into a concept called psychrometric drying. Now, that sounds super technical, but it's actually pretty simple. Professionals essentially create a controlled indoor desert. By precisely managing the temperature, airflow, and humidity, they create an environment so incredibly dry that it literally pulls trapped moisture out of the pores of wood, drywall, and even concrete. It's pure physics used to save your home.
So what's the real difference in the end? Well, a DIY approach with a few fans might make the surface feel dry, but it actually traps moisture inside the wall. It creates a perfect, dark, damp breeding ground for mold. The professional approach, using the science we just talked about, pulls moisture from deep within those structures, and it prevents mold growth using data-driven methods.
And you should know, this isn't just guesswork. The entire process is governed by a super strict industry protocol, the IICRC S500 standard. Think of it as the official rulebook for restoration. It defines exactly when every type of material is officially dry enough to ensure mold can't grow. They don't stop when it feels dry. They stop when the science proves it's dry.
So what does all this science and data actually mean in the end? It completely redefines what it means for a home to be restored. It doesn't just mean the puddle is gone and the paint looks fresh. It means the unseen threat has been scientifically and completely eliminated.
This quote just nails it. It's not about how things look, it's about proof. It's about daily moisture readings, thermal imaging reports, and sticking to scientific standards. That's what real restoration is. The data gives you peace of mind, proving your home is safe and the risk of future mold has been neutralized.
So I'll leave you with this. After a flood or a major leak, what's the real difference between a house that's just been repaired and a house that's been truly restored? Well, the answer is hidden, deep inside the walls, in the very place where science, data, and a race against time made all the difference.